There we go. God, these storms, I swear to God. Hey, guys and gals, welcome to the March 31st episode of Ghost to Ghost PM. Of course, you guys all know our guest. He's been on here a year ago today, as a matter of fact. We couldn't have done this better. We got Devilish on here. I didn't even know, man. I really honestly didn't until you said something to me just a minute ago. I had no clue. It's been a year to the day since you came
Yeah,
on here.
exactly a year. Exactly a year to the day that we did our first Ghost to Ghost, uh, talking about Bigfoot and using part of the Native American lore behind it for not only for you guys in the United States, but also for up here in Canada that we talked about because we were kind of paying a little attention to that as you were doing one of your episodes for those up in British Columbia, Canada, for the Native Indians up there that were talking about it, and then you had some video and all that too to show. And hello to everybody
Hey,
there in chat.
I just noticed you said about. Are you really from Canada?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, every Canadian I ever met said a boot.
No, we don't say boot like United States does. We say about. Just like we don't say
Oh,
rough for what's on top of the house, we say roof. And it's
now,
not a hat, it's a tooth.
now see, that's something my uncle always said. I come from the South. I come from the place where your dog says roof and there's a roof on top of your house.
Yep.
So how you been, bud?
Oh man, it's been a roller coaster. Most definitely. Real life ups and downs here and there. A few other things. Meg says she's not.
Jan
Okay, hang
says
on.
we can't see you.
Okay, hang on. Let me go. Just throw on another light here, and you'll be able to see me. I'll flip the switch.
And he said, "Let there be light." So much prettier in the light. Look at him.
There. Okay. Can you guys see me better now? Now that I put on the light. I like to stay in the dark. That's how a devil lives.
Yeah, yeah. I've never ran into one in the light.
Oh, I don't think so.
Um,
She said she doesn't have either of us.
Yeah, Jan, tell Meg to refresh. Tell her to refresh her page.
Yep.
Now, okay, now she sees us. All right, cool. So,
What?
all right, in the last year, since we've really had a chance to sit and talk, what the hell you been doing?
Well, in general, I haven't really been doing a heck of a lot, but then I've been doing some things that I need to here and there. I even went on my own little personal spirit walk to recenter myself because which is and everybody knows here on this YouTube channel that we are posting on that we all do our videos and lives and everything else. I'm not going to say just the paranormal community because a lot of us have been blaming that, but it's not. It's the whole YouTube community overall because it's into everything. All that bullshit drama. So kind of got tied into all that kind of, last year I've pushed a lot of people away, walked away from them because all they constantly do is a broken record with the same kind of, drama, toxicity over and over again, and not changing. And they keep crying about it. It's like, well, I've posted before and told a lot of this community 9 steps to getting rid of drama from your life. And a couple of them have followed it. The rest, they just keep following the same broken pattern over and over again. And they cry like the boy who cried wolf. It's like, well, if you want something to change, you need to change yourself.
Very
So
true.
if you don't change what you're doing, how can you expect anything else to change? Because people aren't going to change for you. And don't expect them to change because they don't have to, really. And at the same time, yes, be yourself and be truthful. Because what's the sense of talking about somebody behind their back, or making a video about somebody that, you turn around and it's like, hey, wait, that guy over there, he said something about me the other day. I know he did when he had that goofball last week named Derek on the show. No, I'm not kidding. Pulling your leg, Derek, I see is. But, to do all that and to go through and clear my mind, clean myself out, get rid of all that extra negativity and all that other stuff, and and have a more sense of life, looking at it differently, and sure, both of us, we're at the age that we are, and we kind of look at things like, hey, wait a second, let's slow down and enjoy life a little bit more than trying
Yep.
to go through all the materialistic things and this and dealing with this junk, that junk. Like, I can say to you, you have people that come on here sometimes I don't care about that are in chat, but that's my personal thing. Like, that's me. So I make the decision for myself. It's like, okay, do I want to engage in chat? Do I want to be quiet? Or do I leave and just come back when they're finally gone? Just so I don't stir any problems for anybody. Because for me, I don't, want to cause that on somebody's show, regardless of what they're doing. So, I think about that and try to be respectful at the same time. I've been also doing solely, and I've put out, I think, 3 parts now, or am I wrong? For an 8-part series of 8 mythological creatures to Canada, and most of them tend to be a little bit more the main ones, but there are similarities to other parts of the world as well.
Hmm.
The one that which I told you about when I mentioned it last week in chat, you're going, I've never heard of that one, which is Moosey, which is similar to the Loch Ness Monster. And there's a couple of different places here in Canada who have lakes that have witnessed similar type Loch Ness monsters here. Now, Derek was mentioning about the other one, Ogopopogo, I believe is how you say it.
Yeah.
I could be wrong. I'm just trying to remember it offhand.
Yeah, Ogopogo.
We have one here, even in our province where Derek and I are, is Ontario, Canada. And if those of you don't know what I mean by province, the same thing like a state, a parish. I forget the other. There's another term out there somewhere. It's basically the same idea, except for we just call them provinces. So there's a few other creatures that are similar, that we have individually just for Ontario, and one I did as part of my 8-part series is Old Yellowtop, which is Sasquatch / Bigfoot, depending which way you want to call him. But instead, his hair on top of his head is all blonde. So he stands out a lot. Now, they think he may have passed on and he's gone now, but they're still in parts of Ontario up, I believe, if I remember, Cobalt, Ontario, where they did the mining. They still saying that occasionally they see a yellow top. Whether or not these are children or even himself, because I mean, even now, if you're actually trying to put him in years, he's going to be around about 100 and something years old for us to comprehend where he is. So yeah, he's gotten kind of old, and they said he had some white hair for the last sighting. I think was around 2016 was the last big sighting. The other ones have been like, how you see any other mythological creatures, like, oh, you got a glimpse out of your eye, but you couldn't get the camera quick enough to try to take a photo, or you get a photo and it's blurry ass. Right?
Yeah. The same with every Bigfoot. I think he actually just looks like that. I think when you look at him, he's just a blur.
For the majority of them, yeah. So that kind of makes you think, it's like, okay, did they stage this? you can still be skeptical and debunk it that way and say, well, because it's not
Yep.
a good, clean image, how are we to really say that it isn't somebody in a gorilla suit?
Yeah.
Or the what's that grass shawl the snipers wear? I forget what it's called. There's a proper name for it.
Yeah. It's just it's a oh damn, what they call this, a grass grass. But yeah, it's just basically
Yeah,
it's
same idea.
green or brown and just yeah.
Yeah,
And I've seen
right.
some of the really expensive Bigfoot outfits, and
Yeah,
honest to God, man, they look great. The mouth will move. It's got the elastic bands inside, so the mouth will move and stuff like that. And
yep, yep. Um,
um, let me say these hellos and stuff real quick, guys.
oh yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Welcome everybody again that's popped in. Since the last time I said hello, we've had Derek pop in. We've got Bud Files popped in. We've had Tales Told in the Dark. We got KG. Terry's popped in. Holy fricolies, man. Who else? Drew's popped in. Drew, too. Now, see, I was just on her
Yep.
show a couple days ago talking about what you started off talking about the conflicts on the platform and
Mhm,
things like
mhm.
that. And, it's terrible because that's one thing that I've been really trying to promote for the last year is para-unity. Anybody who's into
Yeah,
ufology, cryptids, paranormal, instead of competing with each other, we need to work together to provide and share the data to prove its existence, not try to be in the limelight for the one
well,
that
that's just it.
discovered the evidence. Hey, Tony.
Well, there's a little bit where you kind of want to do that. Oh yeah, I discovered it, but you can't claim that you're the first person, regardless. Even though
Yeah.
people do those clickbait names on some of the videos, but it's one way to try to get views, and then when people
Yep.
realize that you don't have a foot to stand on what you're talking about, then it's a different story. Like, I mean, sure, people probably are going, well, you've only done kind of one exploring video there, Dev, in a cemetery. It's like, yes, that I've let you see. Now, as we talked about before, I've done things before, but I just never was. Well, we'll say it that way. I wasn't clued into, say, like take a camera and take pictures or some type of camcorder, for back in the day, or my digital camera, which snapshot Canon. Didn't do that. I could have taken videos back then, but I didn't. I was more, I want to go and just experience some things and see it for myself. But
Yeah.
we never, oh, hey, maybe we should record something here. We're getting answers, we're hearing noises. Um, who opened the door over there? You know what I mean? Like, we didn't really think about it. We just went and did it for the experience. Kind of like, people go to, amusement parks or to, the haunted houses for Halloween. You're going there for the enjoyment for yourself to experience something, that you don't always experience every day, and to go exploring somewhere, whether it's paranormal or not, or if you're just urban exploring, to go for the experience, even just to do it, and you don't record anything for yourself, you don't post anything up, it's still a great experience to do. um, sure, the smaller the group, if you want paranormal haunted type things to hopefully something happens, is a lot better than a group. It's better than sometimes public tours, because with the public tours it's always so noisy, and sometimes there's kids always involved too, so it kind of, the spirits don't really do anything because of the noise a lot of the
Yeah.
time. Or they're going, oh, oh well, who cares? Too many people.
Uh,
Come back when
Candy, you were right. Ghillie suit. That's exactly what I was thinking of.
okay.
Yeah, Candy just said you were thinking about a
Yeah,
ghillie suit. Yeah, damn it,
yeah,
yes, ghillie.
that's what it was. I knew there was the name and I couldn't pull it off. I've seen them so many times. I've even worn one once, and it's like the first time I put it on, I was like, how the hell can you breathe under this thing? Just because it just felt too much to me at the time, but you get kind of used to it after a while.
Yep, you really honestly do.
Yeah.
But yeah, the para-unity thing is it's very, very important. Michigan, and I've said this to my friend from England that comes over. Matter of fact, he's coming over this month here, and he'll be here in like 2 weeks. Um, Michigan is actually bigger than Scotland, and so I mean we're not a huge state, and we have a tendency of working together here on different investigations and stuff. So
Yeah.
not beating each other down, not being condescending to each other online or discrediting each other. Having that unity to be able to work together is very important, and it's one of the people that I've collaborated with on a regular basis. He was with a group that I like to call them. I like to call them the Bagginses.
Okay. Yeah.
They believe they believe if they dramatize a little bit, then they're going to draw in more people. And he kind of started to follow suit with them a little bit. And I noticed, that he started after I did, and he has surpassed me. He's at that past that monetization level now, and he started like 6 months after I did because
Yeah.
So I would prefer to grow slow and grow natural and be honest than I would.
Yeah. I mean, I busted my butt off for my channel to get it back up into monetization, to get it back again. And then, of course, Google came along, they changed a few things. So did AdSense, and I've lost my monetization. But I busted my butt off to, get the subscribers, right? Get the numbers up, get the watch hours up. I did whatever I had to get it done. I, go to different forums and start, posting down my links here and there. Say, hey guys, come do this. You guys come sub to me, I'll sub to you, because you can't say that on YouTube anymore because they ding you for it. It's part of their new policy.
That's why I like it.
Yeah.
That's why I like AAP's variety channel because they call it pollinizing.
Yeah, you come up with your own basic idea and say, whatever it is, I can say, well, just become part of the demons. Works for me. Or you can tell them for you, maybe, become a new shillelagh.
Mm-hmm. So, for those that weren't in here a year ago,
yeah,
when and again, I emphasize a year ago tonight. How ironic we couldn't have planned this one out better. How did you get started in the paranormal? How did you get started in all of the niches that you dicker around in?
Well, before paranormal was more because we had a UFO sighting from where I used to live when I was a kid. I was about probably 9, 10 years old at that time. And for those of you who are old enough, you'll know. For those who are too young, maybe you don't know. But back then, we used to have handheld video games, but it's not like what we have today. Not Nintendo or Sega or anything like that. Which is one game, and you put in a transistor, 9-volt battery, and you play just football. You play just hockey.
Mm-hmm.
You play just soccer. Well, I had a hockey game that I had gotten for Christmas. But every time when we weren't playing it, we take the battery out, put it all the way back in the box, put the battery separate inside. So there was no way it was connected. Now, I had a football game. My uncle, he had it because there was something going on with it. So he had it all apart and he was working on it to see, what electronic component was going on it. Was a transistor, a diode, just a or something else that was on it, just to see what was going on. And they were sleeping in a tool shed at the time, my two uncles. And they had it out on the table because they were working on it, earlier in the day. They didn't have anything attached to it, no batteries. That night, there was a UFO sighting in the park behind our house, in the soccer field. And when that happened, hockey game in my house went off a number of times. You could hear it. There was like a siren sound for when you score. My mom heard it, and my mom's like, "Oh, what the hell?" Because I was sleeping out in the living room because for some reason I don't know why. I don't know if I was sick or something, and they just wanted me in a place where they could get to me quicker instead of my room because it was so far at the back of the house compared to where theirs was. Um, so it went off a few times, and finally, the one time my mom woke up my dad at that time, and he heard it, and he come out and he was going to give me shit for playing on the game such an hour in the night, and there I was, sound asleep, laying on the floor, and he heard it go off inside the box. So he's going, oh well, maybe the battery's dead. So he goes to open it to check where the battery is. Finds out the battery's not even connected to it. My uncle's football game, it went off, and it's not all together. There's no on-off switch onto it. They had taken that off. There was no battery cables to attach it with, so there was no battery power to it because they were, just checking everything, redoing. Within the next 2 days, we find out in the local newspaper, the big newspaper, not some small TMZ type garbage, or what's those other ones? People's and whatever the other one magazines you see sitting on the checkout counter there when you go to the grocery store.
Well, we used to have the Inquirer, the Sun News,
Yeah,
Gossip Mags,
yeah, gossip drama mags. But anyways, it was in the major newspaper, and they talked about it a little bit on the news. When I went through there to go take a look at it, there was a huge, big oval black mark in the field, and they fenced it all off. You couldn't, even touch it. Like they had it back 5-10 feet of fence, and they went up and over and across, so you couldn't even touch it. And I think they eventually tore all that grass out and then, returfed it. It was, football, soccer field, and also laid into a couple of baseball diamonds for their outfield for the grass area. But that kind of started it, and then the weird paranormal kind of, as a teenager, going into abandoned houses, and then all of a sudden it's like you're hearing noise and you go, "Hey, there's somebody else in here." It's like, no, we should be the only ones in here. You staying put and everybody else going around checking the other rooms. It's like, no, there's nothing. It's like, well, then what the hell made that sound? There's no wind or anything. Is the house that old that is just creaking, resettling again? It's like, maybe. And then you hear a different sound. It's like, that ain't the house. That kind of grew a little bit, with me and a few friends. And then, you get a little bit older teens, younger 20s. And, some people were saying, it's like, oh, I dare you go in that abandoned house. Apparently they say it's really, really haunted. It's got some evil entities and stuff. We go, get out of here. And we go and see what would happen. Right? Nothing happened. We come back out, go, what are you talking about? Nothing happened. And then, they play some video or they have some type of EVP and they play it from a recording. It's like, well, then explain this. I go, until I witness it, I go, I can't tell you. And it just went from there. My tastes have kind of jumped everywhere. Go back to mythological and folklore and myth type stories and creatures, and go from there. Excuse me. So kind of that's the general gist. Getting back into what we talked about before a year ago, to bring up today for those who don't know. What's this? What's chat talking about? They're talking about comas, cars.
Yep. Jan got her brand new car today. Already got the stickers put on the back window. Got herself a new Cadillac. Well, not new to her, but I mean, hell, who can afford a new car?
Yeah, really, right? Oh, and speaking of cars, I haven't even put up that short video yet. Just down around the corner, around the bend from me, down the street, there's a house, and there's always different cars there. This week there's McLaren. I don't remember which version though.
Wow.
I'm sure when people see it, they'll know. And there's also Maserati SUV and I think Porsche SUV. They work at a car
My
dealership,
God.
so there's always
Yeah, I was starting to say car dealership.
Yep.
My dad was a service manager at a car dealership, so he was all the time bringing home demo cars, bringing home customer cars, just whatever. Half our cars growing up were started off as demo cars, and they became leases. And Mom was like, "Oh, I love this car." And then she'd have it for 6 or 7 or 8 years and trade it in on a new demo car.
Probably tomorrow I'll put the video up. Be short. I was just walking. I don't know if I was walking to go to the bus or walking home. It was a sunny day, and I just kind of took the picture of it. It's sitting there right now. It has not moved, and it's been rained on today because we've had rain off and on today here where I live. It just sits there. I don't even think they moved. I don't even think they've turned the engine. So I don't get it sometimes. Sometimes these cars just sit there for a week or two and they don't even move. There was an Audi RS4. That's the kind of the sedan station wagon for the Audis, for the SRs, or RSs, sorry, I should say. It was there in the winter when we had the winter storms, and it was just covered in snow.
Wow.
And the car was nice. I don't think I took a picture of that one. It was really, really nice. And so I'm going, but these guys bring these cars and they just sit there. There was another car they had. Oh, they even had a Lamborghini Aventador there, but they covered it up until they decided that they wanted to take it for a spin. That was a surprise. But seeing this McLaren there, it's like I'm going, what? I go, really? I go, okay.
Yeah, I've never seen a McLaren in real life. Now there's a professor down at Notre Dame that has a Murcielago.
Okay.
Lamborghini.
Yep.
And once or twice a year, you'll be cruising through town right there around Notre Dame, and you'll see it come flying past you and make a turn out towards one of the big housing developments out that way. But yeah, he only gets it out once or twice a year. I'll never understand that. If I was retarded enough to spend $750,000 on a car, I would have that thing out every sunshiny, pretty day that there was. It wouldn't just be the ones that were 95 and above, but then again, my dad, my '67 Ford. The first time a little gray cloud popped up in the sky, he parked it in the garage and it didn't come out until the sun was out again. So, and you want to hear somebody bitch like an old woman? That's when every once in a while he'd drive it to work and it'd rain while he was at work.
Yeah.
Because then we spent all day Saturday rebuffing it and re-waxing it. And
yeah, I know those types. Yeah.
Only in trucks.
Terry, we've had all sorts of cars through my life. From my memory, the first car that I remember is 1969 Mach 1 Mustang, street souped up. So it was legal for the street, but totally souped up. My dad even had a Ford Pinto in candy apple green, totally souped up. Now, I seen pictures of it. I seen pictures of it. It was really nice. It was a show car. Okay? Even though it was a Pinto, still, it was a show car for the way it was done up. I don't know what happened to that one. I know that the Mustang, he was driving in the winter, him and he had a couple buddies in the car, and they were coming home from a Maple Leafs game from the city of Toronto and coming out to where we used to live at the time, where the UFO sighting happened. And he got rear-ended at a traffic light. And the guy in the back, he was on an accordion. He didn't get seriously injured. He had some bruises and a couple of scrapes. But the whole trunk of the Mustang was gone. We pushed right up into the back, and that was a total write-off because the chassis was done. There's nothing you could do.
Wow. Now, see, I remember the old man's Corvair. I remember our silver Pinto station wagon with the black and red stripes that went all the way back to the little round windows.
Yep. Or we call
yeah,
those
we had.
imitation Starsky and Hutch cars.
Yeah, yep. Had those racing stripes on it, but by God, top speed 45.
If you got closer to 50, the thing would shake like crazy.
Oh yeah. I thought the wheels were going to fly right off of it. Oh yeah. My first
Yep.
car was an old blue Blazer.
Oh yeah.
I've had Blazers. I've had Broncos. I've had Mavericks. Oh yeah.
After that,
Camaros, Firebirds.
I don't know which year it was, but we had a Dart Charger for a while. My mom hated it because the gas was a little touchy, so you just go zoom
Well,
as soon as you touch the gas. So we got rid of that.
Take off at a stoplight. The ass thing just. Yep. Beautiful. They danced beautifully.
Was it a Ford? And my dad was more into a lot of Fords than any other car, for brand names. I believe it was a Ford station wagon. We had that for a long time. As kids, growing up in the 70s, we all sat in the back of the damn station wagon with the window down, waving and jumping around at everybody passing by. No seatbelts. You don't see that today. And if you do, well, it's a far side back road somewhere where, the OPP or the special, sheriff's department kind of sit and they're chugging away something. Anyways, we won't get into that, but
yeah.
Then they got the Ford 150 pickup. We had a Toyota Corolla. We had another Toyota. I think was his mom's Toyota first. He even ended up having I forget what year it was. It was in the 60s. Thunderbird. That disappeared. He had a K car. Then he came back to another Toyota again, and I don't know what he's driving now. I think he's driving a Chevy van, but that's only because it's got to be heavy duty for handicap ramp and lift for his wife that he has now, because she's in a wheelchair.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and he's
hold on just a second, bud. Yep. Don't forget, guys, these paintings are still up. Just use the if you're interested in getting into drawing, that draw is going to be on May 1st. We are taking the entries for these two paintings up until the last day of April. And on the Monday night live stream on May 1st, we are drawing drawing the names out of a fishbowl. And the person my daughter draws gets both pictures. Of course, it is only $1 an entry. Enter as many times as you like. Let's make it big. I've got several channels sharing out the link to the commercial that I put up here last week or so to their people. They're trying to really boost up our very first giveaway competition for this new channel. So, all right, bring the dog skeleton back down. So we've covered the Squatchy thing. We've covered some of the paranormal. What else are you dabbling in that?
Okay.
I mean, I know you come up with some really great ideas.
As into which selection of stuff we can talk about.
Oh hell, we could talk about all of them. We still got another hour. We're hour and a half. We could talk about all of them.
Well, I'm sure you had an idea of on a couple of them there for why you were asking. So let's shoot with that, and then I'll tell you some other things.
Well, now what about ufology in Canada? We don't get a lot of news down here about Canada. We hear about big sightings in England or big sightings in Scotland, but we don't hear much about Canada for some reason. Do aliens just not like trees? Do they not like maple? What is the deal? Do they not like the red maple leaf? Does it scare them? Is it like the dove in
it's because we have
Mars
too many
Attacks?
igloos and dog sleds.
Oh.
There is. I think there's more towards the middle of Canada. Okay, so Alberta, Manitoba, and Saskatchewan. Okay, is the three middle provinces to the middle of Canada. They tend to they're more, and I don't know if it's because the land's flatter, if that means anything for them. Um, and then also, of course, on the west coast with BC, closer to the island of Victoria than Vancouver, and a little further north, and up in the I don't know if it's by Kamloops and that, and Banff up in the mountains on either side. Because you got British Columbia on one side of the Rocky Mountains, and then you come to the east side, you've got Alberta.
Mm-hmm.
So they've been in even here in the province where I live in Ontario. We just haven't had a lot. Like there's even I don't know if the building is still there. There was a guy, because he had so much UFO activity, and this is going north from where I am, or if you guys, Toronto, the big city of Toronto, Ontario, Canada, where the CN Tower is, and the Maple Laughs, or the Maple Leafs, I should say, and Toronto Blue Jays. But was it between 4 and 6 hours drive north off of the main highways? You have to take one of the back road highways. He built a house in the shape of a UFO.
Really?
Yeah. And now the one of the biggest guys that kind of went there, actually, him and a couple of his friends, the biggest guy that most of you probably know, the YouTube channel guy who calls himself Mo Sargi.
Mm-hmm.
He's been up there. I think from Burlington there, Carlo Palazzulo. I forget how you say his name properly, because he's Italian. They've been up there, and I think the other guy, some people will know by his name, his YouTube channel name. I believe he's called Freaktology, Frank Freaktology. He does a lot of abandoned houses and a few other things. Now they've all kind of been up there. They've looked at it. There's been some weird stuff that's happened there. And upstairs in the upper level, there's nothing but all these mannequins and dolls inside this UFO-shaped type house, because it's rounded.
Oh, wow.
I don't know if it's on a hilltop or if it's just surrounded by a whole bunch of trees. So there's been that. I can't tell you anything about going to the East Coast towards New Brunswick, PEI, Newfoundland, or over to those French guys, not Montreal, but Quebec. People in Quebec.
Yeah.
I've heard things, but I don't, but that was so long ago. I don't know if anything new crops up. I haven't heard anything new. There could be still throughout the summer, because that tends to be majority of the time when it happens up here. It's not like, they couldn't come in the winter. It's like they've done it in the winter down in the States. Why couldn't they do it in Canada?
Oh, it's too cold.
Yeah.
The tentacles are gonna freeze and we can't phone ET phone home no more. Our technology doesn't work in that freezing cold in Canada.
Well, if that's the case, then why the hell are you going in the freezing cold in Russia? It's even colder over there.
Yeah, really.
Yep.
I'm kind of glad you brought up the ET voice thing there. But before the stream started, we were talking a little bit about how much Dev loves to mess with Derek, and we were discussing Tickle Me Elmo, and a certain live stream they were both on together.
I'm just going to say that Derek says he's Elmo's bitch. Elmo owns Derek. Derek does what Elmo says. Or I'm going to take my Glock and I'm going to shoot him. I'm going to play intestinal go. Sorry, let me say that again. Intestinal tickling with my Glocks. That's what Elmo says.
Well, if you're still there listening or not.
Have you ever been Elmo wants to know, have you ever been tickled from the inside?
Emma wants to know if he can feel you from the inside.
I hope nobody was taking a drink when he did that.
Well, I don't know. Tony says, I think I'm done with drinking. Hangovers are awful, but I don't know if that had to do with anything with listening to Elmo at the same time.
Hangovers aren't awful. Hangovers are a reminder that you survived it.
I don't know. I don't ever recall having a hangover. But then again, maybe I wasn't drinking the wrong way.
I mean, you know, everybody was around when I got absolutely 7 barrels snookered 2 years ago at an event, and I still didn't wake up with a hangover.
Yeah.
I didn't know how I got back to my camp. I didn't know why my tent had been moved, why my poles were broken. Nothing. But I didn't have a hangover.
For me, I don't like tonic with gin. I'll have gin and 7 Up. That I've liked, but I don't know. When I drink gins, it's like, what am I drinking? Like I don't taste much. I don't feel much from it. It's like, for me, it's like water. It's kind of like, like U.S. beer in a way. A lot of it's like water to me, because we're a little bit different up here in Canada. But
hey, Christine.
A few more faces coming. But yeah, as we're talking now, hangovers. I don't recall actually ever having a hangover. I felt bad the next day, with a little bit, of a headache. That's just a normal type headache, and that, a little bit upset. But that wasn't like nothing that, okay, I just have to eat. Bang, I feel good. That's all it was, or like a dehydration type of thing, because you didn't, drink any water or anything else after you drank all that booze. U.S. beer, I don't like any U.S. beer.
There you go. That saved me masking it.
There you go, Sarah. I don't like any U.S. beer, because I haven't found one that actually is reasonable, because it all seems to be nothing but light beer. So when you get to light beer versus Canadian beer versus U.S., it's like water, the U.S. beer.
I gotta drink light beer. I gotta watch my girlish figure.
I thought you were going to say that you have a beer diet like you do with food. I see food, I got to eat it. I see beer, I got to drink it.
No, actually, I prefer Scottish beer, but there's only like one place around here I can get my Belhaven now.
Yeah.
So
I don't know if our brewery store or our alcohol store has any Scottish beer, because I know I've had it. Had a Scottish beer when we have our beer festivals, through the summer. And I've had a few other English beers that I've never seen before, and I've had them. I've tried them. I'm not one for dark stout like Guinness. I don't care about Guinness myself. I've had one dark stout beer, and it was a home brew that somebody did in their basement of their house, and you couldn't drink the last inch of it because there was just too much yeast at the bottom. Which they warn us. They go, "Oh, be careful! Don't drink the last inch of the bottle, otherwise you're going to get terribly sick." I go, "Why?" It goes, "Yeast and whatever else is settled on the bottom." It goes, "We just haven't figured out how to get rid of it."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we used to have a bar. We used to have a bar the next town up called Zeke's, and they had an international beer club.
Oh yeah.
And that's where I found Belhaven at, and then the place had to close down during the pandemic.
Yeah.
And now there's only one other place, and that's 45 minutes away, that sells my Belhaven. But my God, man, if I could get it delivered here, you would never see me drinking anything but Belhaven, with the little St. Andrew's cross on the label and Belhaven across it in big black letters.
Basically, you're going to have 800 gallon drum and hook it up to the faucet, so that way, instead of washing with water, you're just going to wash with Bellhaven and just drink it at the same time.
I told the wife I wanted to get a little pump put in under the counter
Yep.
when we take the dishwasher out. Just get the little kegerator put in. That way I can just walk in there.
Yep. And I don't know about you, and I don't know about anybody else in the chat, but I mean, when I really like to drink beer, I like to go, to a bar or some type of beer establishment and actually have tap beer. For whatever reason, I find that most of the tap beer tastes way better than anything that comes out of a can or a bottle.
Mm-hmm.
That's just so much better. We do have an international beer bar restaurant. It's called in German beer market, right? For beer markets, called it that way in German. So it's not in English, but everybody just says, "Oh, beer market, the Imperial Beer Market," because they do beers from around the world, and once a month they will bring in from a certain country a beer and let people try it for a while before they, are no longer able to get it, or they just decide, to switch it off with something else. It's not to say, that, I don't like things like tequila or different types of rum and, a few other things here and there. I've tried. Be nice to actually have some proper real moonshine again, but the people that I know, they're not alive anymore, so it's hard to find.
Yeah. When JJ and when JJ and Jay, when Jan and Jay come up, they bring me up some shine from Chattanooga, Tennessee, and that stuff is wonderful. We just finished the jar here a few weeks ago. They brought up last year, and so I mean, I stuck it in the freezer. Just maybe once a week, twice a week, I'd unscrew the lid, take a sip or two, and put the lid back on, put it back in the freezer. And I didn't miss them so much that way. So
I wished I could. I just don't have the room to do that. I'm not sure whether the landlord would let me.
Oh, from the Smoky Mountains, not Chattanooga. Okay, I got you.
Oh, Smoky Mountains. I've had infused tequila. That's where they'll take different things like the agave plant itself and infuse it. Raspberries, pickled pears, and what was the other one? I don't remember offhand now. It's another fruit, I think. And they just let it sit as they distill their tequila on their own. And once it's sat for so long, then even with the fruit being still in it, pour it in your glass and say, "Here you go." Most of the glasses are the small mason jars with the handle on the side.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have one around here somewhere.
Yeah, I know. I've seen you drinking out of it once or twice there.
Yep, not in here. Must be back out in the kitchen cabinet. I don't have any more room for cups. I got this one in here. Oh crap! I got this one in here.
Yeah.
Of course, I've got my Mexican Day of the Dead cup and my Punisher cup, and my Christmas deer cup, and of course my skull that I always drink out of.
That's kind of like my Skull and Crossbone coffee mug that I drink out of, that I got down in New Orleans when I was down there.
Oh, nice.
I'm not sure if I actually. Well, it was on Bourbon Street where we got it, but I don't think we went to Jean Lafayette's bar to get it, because they have the bar there further along Bourbon Street, getting close to the scary district, where they tell you after 8 p.m. don't go because you might not come back.
I hate to say it because what you what you just said. I've always wanted to go to New Orleans and just run at night and see everything. The French district, the old district, out of town to the east. you know, the legend of the Loup Garou.
Well,
You know,
speaking of that, the Loup Garou, that legend is well famous from all sorts of places, but it was brought over to the U.S. and Canada. It's a myth that comes from elsewhere. I'm not saying a lot because I have a part series in my mythological creatures where I'm going to be talking about that. But a lot of
okay.
information so far that I've gotten is all in French, so I have to translate it all. But there's like little short stories, and if people don't know what Loup Garou is, basically it translates to a wolf man. So, you know,
Jay
there's
leaving
all
us?
sorts of stories, and they have a lot of stories up here in Canada, closer to Montreal, and I think, and into Quebec and somewhere else in Ontario as well. Serious voodoo doll. The only serious voodoo doll in New Orleans, if you're going to be in French Quarter, is you only can get it from Marie Labeau's shop. They have a few variety there, but other ones you have to go outside of New Orleans. You have to go out into the bayous where the alligators are, and maybe they might make you one or sell you one, but it's very difficult. I know somebody who practices in it that lives down there, so that's why I can say that. I haven't done Mardi Gras, Tony. So I'm a little envious that you did Mardi Gras. I've been there twice. The first time I went to New Orleans in the French Quarter is because what was it? Katrina had hit the Hurricane Katrina, and we went 6 months after, and you could still see down in the main on Canal Street. A lot of the businesses you could see at 4 feet where the water line mark was, and they were scrubbing that, trying to get it off the buildings. They were redoing the cobblestone for the walkways, and then I think it was 10 months after we went back, because we went back in June when they had their big tomato festival. So, you know, we got to witness and had a bunch of different dishes that, you know, featured heavily with tomato in it as part of the recipes. And then it's like tonight, well, dinner is kind of like there, but I can't have shrimp due to allergies. So I have chicken and, well, this is sausage, but I don't think it's andouille sausage. So I have usually chicken and andouille sausage gumbo or jambalaya that way. I can't do the seafood.
I love jambalaya.
Oh, I had a chicken one when I was down there. I forget where it was.
They make a chicken, just
sorry.
They make just a chicken jambalaya down there.
Yeah, they do. A few of the restaurants do it. We walked into one and was looking at it, and I saw it. Went, no seafood in this one. It's like,
wow,
no seafood in it. We do this one just for those few people that can't. I said, great. I go because I can't. I said, but if a little bit gets cross contaminant, I said it's okay. I can handle that. And I had it, and it's like, wow. So I kind of had that tonight.
Nice. When I first moved to Texas, my next door neighbors were Cajun. She was actually born just outside of New Orleans, and they used to bring me over because I when I first got there, I drove a taxi cab, so I only got home late at night, and they had a key to my trailer, and every night I'd come home and open my fridge up, and there'd be gumbo or jambalaya or something in my fridge. And she's actually where I learned to make real traditional chicken, sausage, shrimp gumbo.
Yep.
And she always put hundreds of them little tiny shrimps in the gumbo.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So, because she knew I love shrimp.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I got shrimp with every bite.
Oh yeah.
It was great. They were great people. I'm sure they're long gone now, but I'm they were in their 80s 20 years ago when I met them. So 25 years ago.
The Cajun Creole food that's down there for things that it's like I miss it. It's like that's the only reason why I would go back down. Really, is just to go down for the food, right? Just because it's completely different. We got places up here that kind of do that food, but it's to me it's not the same. I guess it's just the ingredients that we have versus what's down there. You know, because I've had
Now,
pulled
you
boys
guys have
there and here.
one thing up there. Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, you guys have one thing up there that we don't have a lot of here. I've always wanted to try it, and that's beaver
that?
tail.
Oh, beaver tails. Yeah, it's basically
Beaver
a
tail.
fry bread. Yeah, it's just basically a fried bread that's stretched out and just whatever ingredients that are added on top of it. I think you guys
Yep,
have something.
kind of like what we call an elephant ear.
Yeah, elephant ear is pretty similar to it.
Oh, Jan, I'm right there with you. I would love to do New Orleans. I'd love to do Savannah. Would be absolutely amazing to get down
Oh,
into Atlanta or Savannah
Yeah.
and do
especially after
investigations down
taking a
there.
ghost tour there, because they do walkabout ghost tours in the French Quarter. There's a few different people that do it, and they kind of take you through certain sections of the French Quarter. A lot of the one that I went on, we went up not quite to I think it's Cemetery Number 1 that's there closest to the French Quarter, just up Canal Street. We went
Mhm.
through it with somebody else, and they toured and took us through where Marie Laveau is buried, and a couple other famous people there. But when the
Yeah.
tour guides go through, they take you to the fake Marie Laveau tomb. They don't take you to the real one, even though it is in the same cemetery. They just don't take you there.
Yeah.
Because people just vandalize too much, and or they're trying to do the offerings too much later on and everything. So there's X's marked on it and other offerings that are sitting around along the sides and up along the upper edges, because the way it's shaped, not quite like a roof or steps, but there is little kind of step parts because the weather's worn it down the way they designed it. And there's candles, both red and black. There's other offerings there. There's X's marked on the side because people are trying to, get something done voodoo wise. But what a lot of people don't realize, like for that, what you want, you have to pay for it in something else.
Yeah.
It's a give and take, but sometimes what's being taken from you is not what you want to give. You have no choice in it. So if you want, a love potion, somebody's going to get hurt, very sick, or die to give you that love potion, but it won't be who you think. And it may be, somebody else who's close to you, and it's going to hurt you more than it is going to be good, which a lot of people don't
Well,
realize.
they say that when you go to have something like that done, that there's always a cost, and it may not be cash.
No,
So
it's usually
yeah,
something physical.
Yep. And I've dealt with a lot of witches in my life, and I've even known people that practice sangria, santeria.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Never dealt with anybody that done voodoo, but yeah, they always, I'm a very fond believer in the Wiccan Rede. Whatever harm you do returns to you three times.
Threefold, yep.
So, yep.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'm a very fond believer. That's why I don't hold grudges. I don't hate anybody. I promote, complete unity, complete honesty, everything with people. And I mean, that's just because I believe even in that, not even dealing in magic, but dealing in life itself. Karma's a bitch. That saying's been around for years, and I'm a fond believer that when you intentionally do somebody wrong, that stuff's going to come back bite you in your can.
It might not be just your can; it might be a few other places too. But
yeah,
you'll find out later when you least expect it. But also with that tour, not only do we, the cemetery, and you go by the shop for Marie Laveau. You go in around Jackson Squares. They tell you about the pirates and the slavery and everything else that happened that was right there, because that ends up being their city hall police station right nearby too. But they have the
Hmm.
pirates alley right there, and they tell you how the slaves were locked up there. At certain times they said, if you go later in the evening and it's not too busy, there's not too much of a crowd after the psychics and everybody else that are around Jackson Square. Once they've all left and it's quieter, they go, if you stand by they actually have uh, the old bar cage door, like a jail cell, leading into where they took a lot of slaves and they chained them up to the walls, and you can still see the circular steel pieces that they've stuck in the wall, where they put the chains through, and they would cuff
Hmm.
them and have them there. That you can hear things even down in Pirates Alley in the laneway that's beside the actual Cathedral of Jackson Square. That if you walk in it at certain times, that you will hear or sometimes even see something. Okay.
Now, when you was down there, did you get the tour of Madame Lollerie's uh, house?
No, no, we didn't end up doing that. We did a few other things, but on the ghost tour, like they take you to a few different establishments, walk around. They get you to certain different buildings, even the main building that's in the French Quarter for Interview with the Vampire, where they stayed and did the filming. And
Hmm.
there's some folklore in behind that for other things. There is it Bourbon Street and Charters? Trying to remember exactly. But anyways, it's a big famous hotel. A lot of people have seen pictures of it with the ironworks that come around the building in an L shape on the outside with 2 or 3 floors. There was a big, huge murder in there, and they still say that today that the woman and the man who was killed in there still frequent one of the balconies at
Yep,
night.
I've heard that before.
Yeah. And the big thing about New Orleans, why it's always jazz music, because there was a serial killer who was killing people, um, whatever thing, but he used the newspaper to let them know about it. And he conversed with them in the newspaper saying, I'm going to go on a massive killing spree if you don't play music on this day. And anybody who's not playing music, I'm killing you. So then they brought up all this jazz and all the establishment. Everybody had music running through the whole night, and he didn't kill anybody and disappeared. But the thing was, though, that this guy, he entered a house that was a small portion of the front door that he kicked in that was only about maybe a foot by foot, and the guy is 48-inch chest, and he entered the
Wow.
house and killed the people inside the house, and they're going, how did he get in? If though it's just only a 1 foot, 12-inch by 12-inch hole to go through, and this guy is 3 times as wide. That they believe who did all these killings. So they tell you about this. They tell you another house when you get to go into it that on the upper floors, as you turn out the lights to close down the building for the night, because I forget what they do in there. They do tours and there's something else. The staff are saying that they'll be on the upper floor, they'll close windows, close doors, turn out the lights. They get in the second floor, they get about halfway, they might be coming down to the first floor. All of a sudden, all the lights and all the doors open up again on the third floor. There's nobody up there.
Oh wow.
Okay. And it's like when I took the ghost, that inspired a little bit more into wanting to investigate different places. Just I don't care whether it's haunted or not. I just want to go and witness, see something happen, or see the old architect, how the building is decaying after so many years. Um, what else is there? But hearing that, it's like wow. It's like I want to witness that. I want to see it. I just want to see it. I don't care.
Well,
And then going to
Madame
yep.
Madame Lollerie's place, supposedly, because of all the torturing she'd done of her slaves and
Mhm.
stuff up in the attic, you can still hear voices, you can hear
Yep.
screams. Which she was a very sick individual. She was into scientific experimentation, drilling holes in their skulls and poking around in their brains and taking parts of their brains out. And
Well, there's
they had one girl that had all of her limbs broken. She was living in a chest up there in the attic.
Work at one of the asylums down there.
Not that
TB
I
or
remember seeing. I know that she. No. I don't think she ever really worked because she kept marrying wealthy.
Okay.
So
that's what I was trying to see if it's because there's somebody else that's similar to that story who worked in one of the tuberculosis asylums that was down there, and they were killing certain people off on the side. Instead of letting them die naturally, whatever, they were taking them and killing them using, I don't know whether it was sacrifices for voodoo or anything else like that. Could have been possible, who knows? But a little bit, in those places, yeah, you're gonna find some stuff. The other place went to, and there's some stories behind it. It's who you talk to when you go through your tour is Oak Alley and the plantation itself into the main house, which was also featured heavily into Interview with a Vampire movie. When you go in there, you can't do anything with flash photography, nothing like that. Video, I don't know if they allow you to do video without light. It has to be all natural lighting. You can't use anything because they're trying to preserve and protect the old furniture and all the other antiques that are there. They don't want the wallpapers and some of the paintings to wither because of the lighting. So it's just the natural lighting. So you can see on some paintings, they're a little bit yellow from the natural sunlight, and they're
wasn't that the plantation that was that was the plantation that was Louise family's plantation?
Yeah, the big white house.
Bradford. Yeah.
Yeah, that's Oak Alley. So you see the long driveway, which has the 40 oak trees, 20 on each side. Right? And then how they canvas over the top. And that's the cobblestone brick driveway, which they don't drive up anymore. They just allow people to walk up and down it to take their pictures. From the street looking towards the house, and then the plantations right behind it with all the sugar cane, and the I think on the other side is where all the cotton fields were as well, if I remember correctly. And there's been some hangings on some of the trees in the backyard as well for there. So there's our guide that took us was, told us all sorts of things when we're outside, saying, "Oh, they didn't mention this while you were walking through the house, but these things did happen here." And they took us to one tree. It goes, on this tree's where several hangings have happened over the years, back when the plantation was fully active with all the slaves that they had. So
wow.
Yeah. And you could have paid more money, and they could have, I think there was some tractor pull, whatever, that would take you down into the plantation to some other houses that some of the slaves were to stay in, that were working the plantation and all the landscaping and everything. And they tell you other stories about things that happened there between themselves and what was done to them. So, it was quite an interesting experience.
I bet. Now, when you were down in New Orleans, did you and some people, I would say probably two people are going to kind of go when I say this. Did you have a chance to meet any of the people from the New Orleans vampire groups?
With our ghost tour, there was another ghost tour, and the guide is supposedly from that group, but we didn't get to chat with him because he had his own tour that he was doing. We were thinking of that one too, and we weren't sure whether we should have. But other than that, nobody that would really say anything or point, watch out for that person.
Yeah, I actually had a conversation with the former head of that group one time via video chat, and I wanted to put a video up on him, but
Yeah.
he just seems so out there that I don't think anybody would really get into the video. I mean,
Yeah.
he claims to be a full blood hereditary
Mhm.
bite changing vampire, not one of the
So
groups that just
yeah,
bloodlet
yeah,
and
yeah.
But when the very first Underworld movie came out, they did a little side video called Fangs to Fiction,
Okay, yeah.
and
Remember that.
they went into some of the vampire clubs in New Orleans and stuff, and talk to vampire groups about their bloodletting and
Well,
how they bring in new members and stuff like that. So
to add to that,
I, we're used
I
to the
think that
weird. So
yeah, part of that group, I believe they still have and they own and they run whatever in there. There is a vampire school or university. I forget which it is. It's mostly abandoned in the building. There's been some different people have gone in there, and some of you may know Omar Gosh and Mosarji went in there, and they had some things. There is a piano that if you do go to it and you do play it, and as you walk away, when you're either on the same floor or the floor above, you will hear it play.
ah,
But the question is, because you're not anywhere near it, did somebody come and play it, or was it, I don't know, a vampire spirit or something? Because they say that there's nothing but vampires that run it, and if you're in there at the wrong time, you may never come out. This is what's said.
hmm
So I don't know, how much is true, or if it's just, a story to tell that scared people to not go in.
yeah, and it's really funny because even long before the Vampire Chronicles were written by Anne Rice, before she wrote Interview or Lestat or Queen of the
Yeah.
Damned or any of those. Um, there were stories, and I did a video on the old channel about, I believe they were called the Box Girls,
Okay.
that came over from France, 150, 175 years ago, and they either came over as an offering to French vampires that were there, or they were vampires themselves. But
Mm-hmm.
nobody really knows. But they do know that they were very pale skinned. They were very
Well,
active at night. You never saw them during the day. So, but these again are old French vampire legends from the old country. So,
okay. Would they have had the that that disease that came from Europe? Did they talk about 16th to 18th century that give them the vampire-like looks and all that stuff? I forget what
it's
it's
very
called offhand now.
possible.
But the name's fleeting me at the moment. Um, because before Vlad, the Impaler, was we called him, Dracul, to be that. He wasn't the first. There was another guy
Yeah.
before that was the first vampire, and it wasn't even in Romania. It was in another country nearby. I think it was closer to what we call now Croatia. If I remember correctly, I could be a little
hmm
bit wrong because I got a couple of people information bouncing around in my head at the moment. So it's like I'm remembering this part and this part. But the original guy, they thought he had this disease, and they blamed it on the disease for the way he looked and everything. But he was supposedly the one true blood drinking vampire, and
Huh.
that it came from the disease, but he lived, and they buried him in the ground, and he came back up out of the ground alive. So, like they're saying, well, wait, is that vampire alive or is that human alive? Because I haven't found out that information, but they ended up having to decapitate him to kill him because they were afraid. They tried. They
And
said they
that
tried.
was
They said they tried putting a wooden stake in his heart, but it wouldn't penetrate.
hmm.
So, okay, is that the myth part of the story, or is that real true? Like, because it was so long ago. There's not a lot of information, and you really have to dig a lot. And when you do, it's like with some things, I'm sure you've come across some people, they don't want to talk about it. It's like
Yeah.
some of the natives for certain things, they don't want to talk about certain spirits or creatures. That's part of their, they're all their aura. And it's like, oh, well, like, I forget who it was that went over to my channel. I just saw the notification saying that they subscribed because they're waiting for me to do on my Wahili episode.
Yeah, I touched on that no talking thing in a video I've got coming up in April on Ingrid Cold
Mm-hmm.
and the Men in Black in the for Appalachian Mysteries. When I right after the Mothman prophecies came out, ironically, I had to go to Norfolk, Virginia, to pick up a friend whose wife had gone out on her battleship, and he couldn't stay in base housing while she was gone. So on the way back from Norfolk, we kind of made a little turn north and went to Point Pleasant, West Virginia. And I tried to talk to people about the Mothman, and I actually made reference in the video that when I went to the only place I could find, and that was a grocery store, and there was an old man at the checkout. There was a girl checking him out, and I walked in. And I asked her. I said, "Where was the old Silver Bridge located? I want to take some pictures of it and visit your museum and see what information I could find on that collapse and the Mothman and Ingrid Cold." And the old man just held his hand up and turned around and walked out the door, left all of his stuff right there on the checkout.
Huh.
And she goes, people that were alive back then don't talk about it. They solely 100% believe in Ingrid Cold. They believe if you talk about him, he's going to come back. They weren't concerned about the Mothman. They were concerned about the mysterious Ingrid Cold. So, but she told me, she goes, "You're not going to find any of the old people that'll talk to you. Now, maybe the person at the museum will, but yeah, you're not going to find any just average people on the street that'll talk to you about Ingrid Cold." He was scary. So the smiling man. So yeah, I understand the not getting people to talk about things.
That's JJ's interesting question. Saying no one wanted to talk about it.
Nope. They refused to talk. That old man just straight up didn't even say anything. Held his hand up, turned around, walked past me, and walked out the door, got in his truck, and left. Left all of his stuff right there on the checkout. Nothing to do with it.
I forget what Cree they are. And when I say Cree, just for some people, they don't understand that meaning. What nationality of Native American Indian that they are. They say Creed for it, or Cree. What was I asking them about? There was something that way. I don't know. I can't remember what it was about, but it has to do with a certain spirit with the elders that protect the graves. And I was asking questions, and the one, he wouldn't speak any English anymore. He would only speak in the native language. So if you didn't know the native tongue, you weren't going to get any answers. And it's like, I go, which native tongue is he speaking? It's like, I go, because some words I understand, but the rest, I don't know. Give me a decipher. Give me the keyword so I can decipher it. Only because myself, I do have Native Indian blood going back fair ways to the Arcadian areas, which is known as the Micmac Indians. As being, part of the first 6 nations. So it's like, certain things, because it's a little French and something else, but they don't actually, in the beginning, they didn't speak full sentences. It was just certain words for certain actions, along with hand gesturing for certain things. So it's like, if I put my 2 hands out as so, that was a gesture for a book.
Yeah.
So, even if they didn't say the word, that was a hand gesture saying, "Oh, book. Okay, we have a book, or there's a book for you to look for, or whatever, and you'll find more information." but you didn't have the full sentence to tell you that. It was just, oh, book. It's like, okay, do I need to look for a book? Is there a book that you have that I can read? Do I need to go to a certain library to read on this in a book? Like, so it was kind of vague, but a lot of there was some where they shut up, or they only speak a different language that you have no clue about, and it's like, wait, okay, I won't ask anymore.
Wow. That's very cool, Templar. My typing teacher in high school, who was very pale looking and always wore black, was actually from Transylvania.
Yeah.
That's a place I've always wanted to go. I always wanted to see Romania.
Mm-hmm. Just like some of the older parts, and not in the cities. I would love to go to Germany and see certain places, especially into more the old Germanic times.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and Germanic times, for some people, if you don't know, that's going way back into the Roman Empire time, when they used to fight the Germanics. And back then, that is your true goth in Gothic.
Yeah.
Not what we see people dressed today, because a lot of that isn't really goth or emu. It's really a form of punk, and a lot of people don't realize that there is a true goth type dressing, but it's more a way of life than it is dressing to look a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
So the Germanics, which there was a TV show. What's it called? They're showing that too. The Germanics came to fight with another group against the Romans. It was on it's on Netflix. I can't remember it right off. Is it called Barbarians? Maybe I could be wrong. I would have to look it up and check it again. I think it's called Barbarians. I could be wrong.
Yeah, I don't know. We've not had Netflix for like 3 months now.
I have that. I don't have any other streams at the moment, so wherever I see, I might be canceling it for a while because there's nothing really interesting there for me to watch other than a few episodes on here or there, and then once that's done, I don't know, it's boring.
Well, we had like 75 channels, and sadly enough, most of them were like B, C, and D movie channels.
Yeah.
But when our budget did this, our streaming channels were the first thing to go.
Of course.
So we have like 3 channels now that we can watch. So
I mean, a lot of
that was an extra $45 a month we couldn't afford to spend. But yeah, I miss my Netflix. They had some good documents.
Well, that's like me.
I mostly watch documentaries.
I'm just reading part of chat what I'm answering. On my mom's side of the family is German and Polish. My mother was born in Germany, and before she was a year old, her mother and father, my grandparents, they came to Canada. So they went to Newfoundland first, and then slowly made their way over into Ontario. Slowly moving west. But her mother is German and her father is Polish, and they were both in the Second World War as elder teens, I would say. So there's that history. We all know the World War history, but we only know one side of it. What we're only been told, but we're only allowed to know, and all the biased information, because we've been programmed to hate Hitler. Regardless, we know what things that happened with the Nazis and everything, what was done, what was told, and we blame a lot of it just on Hitler. But meanwhile, some of the things that were done wasn't commands from Hitler directly. They were other commanders that gave these commands. Oh, well, that came from your Führer, your commander came from Hitler. You have to do it. Otherwise, what happens? Well, the SS and some of the other Gestapo members. If you don't do it, you're dead. Plain and simple. Because my grandfather used to tell me stories, right? And as I go, well, they don't say anything about that in in our history classes, they told us this, this, and this. He goes, that's not fully true. He goes, maybe that's what the other side said, but this is what happened because I was there. This is what I had to do. Once the Germans captured the Polish army had to do what they said. And that even included fighting their own. That they would send them on
I've
opposite sides of the
actually
field, have them come at each other and tell them the enemy's right in the middle. As soon as you see the white of their eyes, shoot.
I've actually heard stories that Hitler was a little sickened at times because of some of the experimentation and stuff and the medical practices that were being done to not just the Poles, but the Jews and homosexuals and anybody that had any kind of a mental disability or physical disability.
Even to the Germans themselves, certain things that a lot of the Germans back then, if they weren't in the army, in that kind of essence, if you were just a farmer or anything else, you were slaves.
Yeah.
My grandmother was telling me as a teenager, she had to go out in the fields to go collect potatoes and strawberries to take it to the army camps. And then whatever was left over, then they could have for themselves, which usually was everything that fell on the ground they stomped all over. Right? Like, she told me all these different things. She goes, you had no choice. She goes, if you didn't go to the field after school, they would come and get you and drag you there as a kid. So, the kids, had to do that.
Yep. Now, have you done very much research into Hitler and his belief in the supernatural and how can we phrase this? Advanced technologies, and because I just done that video not very long ago. Has it even come out yet? I don't want to say anything yet.
I don't think you did. I don't recall.
Oh yeah, it came out already.
Did you? Because I know you were talking about it.
Yeah, it came out. Yeah, it would come out in February. Hitler's UFO development, historic fact or fiction. Now that one really got me when I was doing the research for it, because a lot of the information in that video came from U.S. military documents that said they found his round flying ships and that he had tested these round flying ships on multiple occasions and stuff like that. So
yeah, because I think a lot of that was developed in World War One. And when it came into World War II, like, look what he did with the jet plane. He didn't use it for what it should have been for. He used it for as like a B-52. And that was part of his downfall because he pretty much lost it then. I mean, he went crazy, but he was a really smart man. Yeah. And a lot of people don't give him, like, take away all the hatred and take away all the killings and everything that happened in around the Nazi group. Not just saying just put Hitler's name to it and say it's all his fault. But even before he started, taking over the army and over the politics, he was a very smart man. And some of the ideas and things that he brought forth, they kind of like, oh, well, that's not true. That's not going to happen. Or where are you coming off with that? Like, what book or movie have you been watching? Are you sure you're all there? Are you a little nuts in the head? Maybe we need to psychoanalyze you. And that's when he kind of went mad. He goes, you know what? I'm just going to show you.
Yeah.
And that's where the
I remember back in high school talking about Hitler and World War II, and I said something to my history teacher, like, we sit here and we condemn him for his actions as the leader of the Nazi regime, but if he was an American, he'd be considered a war hero. And my teacher said, yeah, he honestly probably would. He said some of the atrocities that we carried out during the war, and none of our upper echelon, the president, our generals, paid any price for the things that we did.
Yeah.
You know, we had a concentration camp right here in the state of Michigan, and there's been several paranormal investigators that have gone. I mean, the fences are all gone. Well, about 95% of the fences and stuff
Yeah.
are gone. But all the buildings and stuff are gone. And we've had a lot of paranormal investigators go out there and pick up a lot of stuff. But you know, stories were that those German and Japanese soldiers were put there. They were starved. They were mistreated. They were beaten.
Yep.
So you
And there's a
know,
lot
some
of
of them were starved to death.
a lot of German officers after the war that came into Canada. A lot of them, you know, north of Toronto, going even eastward towards Montreal. They had houses and they had it all done up inside. There's a couple of them that I don't know one if it's still there. The one got torn down. It got vandalized big time. The other one, he had the swastika. He had everything done up inside the house. On the outside, you would never know that this was inside. He had one room which was identical to I guess, was it the war room or a meeting room for Hitler and everybody else? That the total room was totally exactly the same, was identical. Because the few people that went and investigated this house, they took these pictures and then they went and they found pictures elsewhere and they go, look, it's exactly the same. It's like, Nazis were here in Canada like that? Goes, how? He goes, this guy lived all these years like this, still being faithful to the Nazi regime, and died. He was a doctor, the guy. Right? But he was also an officer for one of the world wars. I can't remember which one. And he had his medals, he had everything all locked away in safes and this and that. And eventually, you know, they got into this, they found these things. Like, look at this. There was pictures of them in uniforms and everything. So, you know.
Yeah, there was, and we talked about this a little bit, I think, this morning. Several doctors and scientists from Germany came to America, and you know, after the war was over,
I'll
they
add a little twist to that
actually
for you. That some of those doctors already were American and other nationalities, and were taken into Germany to be used.
Okay. Hey, John Eagle.
So some people don't know that, because he went and looked for the brightest minds to come in to build these ideas he had and put it into reality. And a lot of them were taken from other countries. They weren't just from Germany. And then those doctors and scientists and whatever, once the war was done, they all fled and went different directions, so they, you know, wouldn't be condemned for whatever. You know, some of them were, you know, escaping like a underground railroad out of Germany type idea. You know, saying, oh no, and they some of them even went through the concentration camps pretending to be, you know, part of those people that were captured, and they're in those camps to escape, so they wouldn't be traced by whatever was left of the German regime that would go after them and try to kill them.
Yeah,
because they didn't want the information put out. They were trying to hide it now, so they were doing everything right. Just as one of the houses that Hitler had, and he had a lot of documentation there. They destroyed it all before any U.S. or any other Allied forces got in there to try to take and capture everything. Right? They knew they were coming, so they destroyed whatever they had to, because they had limited time, and whatever else they did, they took it and went elsewhere.
Yeah, I remember years ago, I seen a video of a local village woman that was a housekeeper at one of Hitler's houses. And just short of talking about what the Nazi regime did in general, as she talked about Hitler, she had nothing but fond things to say. You know, how he would feed children, how when he threw his large gatherings of all of his officers, he would give all the leftovers to his workers and stuff like that, how he treated them so kindly and, congratulated them on the births of children. And, she had nothing bad to say about him. But, Jan and Tony were just talking here a second ago about the human skin lampshades.
Yep.
And, yes, and that's something we were talking about earlier. Was
I
a lot of
couldn't
the
join you
things
earlier.
that
I
were
was at work.
well, just a few minutes ago.
Okay.
A lot of the things that were conducted, a lot of the things that were done to the prisoners, were not necessarily on his order.
No.
These were people taking on their own little agendas, and like the human soap. I mean, they would literally boil these people down. They would skin them. They would boil them down, render their fat. They found jars on top of jars of human soap. The lampshades, book covers, all
Even
kinds
clothing.
of stuff. Shrunken heads.
Yep, shrunken heads, clothing.
Yep. Not to mention brain surgery. I mean, the brain is an interesting computer right now in 2023. Could you imagine what little bit of knowledge they had in 1943 or 1944 operating on a person's brain?
Oh yeah.
Trying to cure mental disease.
Well, look.
This person has Down syndrome. Let's cut into their brain and figure out what part of the brain's infected, or this person has,
was
whatever.
like drilling the holes in the skull to drain blood out because they thought that was the proper thing to do. Right? Cut a small hole in the skull and then add whatever chemical it was to the brain to see, how does it react to this? Right? They did all sorts of things. It's just not a lot of it's been talked about, and a few people have. And I know certain critics, jump all over them about it. Say, oh, that didn't happen, or how can you say that? But you got to have an open mind to to listen, to understand some of the things. If you don't enough, then you're going to be, as I said earlier, you're just going to be with the biased information that's only taught to you in schools, and that our education system or governments, that's all they want you to understand because they don't want to tell you the truth.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, when I look at history, like I look at the Bible.
Yeah.
The Bible used to be that thick. But after the what was it called, the meeting of Algernon or something like that, when they decided what 35 books they were going to cut out of the Bible, then the Bible became that thick. So give it to a king who didn't believe in complete and total Christianity to cut away half of Christianity.
Yeah.
Thank you, Tony. The Council of Nicaea. Thank you.
Okay.
That is. Yep. And supposedly, and see, I used to follow that stuff a lot because though I'm not a very religious person, I'm a very spiritual person. And I thought it was a king. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I thought it was a king. The leaders of the church. Okay. But I remember when they first discovered the Dead Sea Scrolls.
Yeah.
The Dead Sea Scrolls were given to people. They started deciphering them. They got about halfway through the book of Genesis, and it was nothing like the modern Bible. And according to rumors, according to stories, of course, there's no factual video recordings of this. But supposedly that's when Rome came in and confiscated everything and said, nope, okay, you've done enough, thank you, and took this stuff back to Rome, back to the Vatican. So, I mean, who knows? I mean, you're always regardless of what happens, you're always going to have a conspiracy theorist that comes up
Yep.
with this, and then this other conspiracy theorist takes this and turns it into this, and then the other guy takes this and turns it into a book. So yeah, you just never really honestly know exactly what the truth is. So the last lobotomy in the U.S. was by Dr. Walter Freeman in 1967, resulting in the death of the patient. I have read the transcripts of the scrolls. Oh, have you really? I've never found a complete copy of the transcripts. But yeah, the Dead Sea Scrolls supposedly talked about Lilith.
Yep.
They talked about Eden being a garden owned by a king named Godin, and Adam and Lilith were brought in as the caretakers. Well, Lilith was not subservient to Adam. She basically told him which bus to get on, where to get off, and hope the spring don't poke him in the ass when he does it. So she was expelled from Eden, and Eve was brought in. So,
did they say that Lilith was part of the fallen angels?
I don't think it discussed that, but it brought into question, things like, okay, you had Adam and Eve.
Yeah.
They had two sons, Cain and Abel. Cain took a rock and killed Abel.
Yep.
Then Cain was expelled from Eden and took a bride from a neighboring kingdom. Well, if there was only Eden, where did he take a bride from?
Yeah.
Things like that. So, scientific logic would dictate if there was only 3 people on the planet at that time, Adam, Eve, and Cain, then that means he had to mate with his mother to make more people.
Well, when you look at that as, the generalized logic, that's like you go, wait a second. If there was 2 and they have children and there's nobody else, how are they supposed to reproduce? That means now they're, as we call it, incest today, right? Or taboo family. That's what they had to do. Right? So,
yep.
And if they, as you said, as he took a bride from a neighboring village, like, okay, well, wait a second. That means there was more. Why is it not talked about? Where's the information?
Yep.
Like, where did it get lost?
And it's really funny. Back when I was dating the little Irish Catholic girl several years ago, and I thought about converting to Catholicism. We went in and talked to the priest, and I was asking all these questions, and I never seen anybody haul around like he did. I mean, I've always known priests to be right on the money, straight up, answering your questions. And this guy was like, well, you have to take into consideration that I'm like, I don't remember being in the Bible. I've read it 3 times, cover to cover. I don't remember being in there.
Yes. Yeah. Like
that's what I decided not to convert.
Like.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Tony saying that they had a shitload of kids. It was far more than 2 of Adam and Eve's kids.
Well, I know, but the Bible only talks about 1.
Yeah, well, that's just the thing. Like, as you go through it, they only talk about 1 male, one female to start.
All right, Jan, you have a good evening, honey. If you get a chance to go out and play in your car tomorrow, send me a message. Let me know how it was.
Hear that, or
I bet
send
it's
them a
going to be a
picture
nice
and say,
little ride. She sent me a picture of it tonight, and I sent her back.
Yeah.
I said, I still love the old Cadillacs.
Yeah.
The ones that you could pop the trunk and get 14 bags of groceries in the back of it and still have room to spare. She's like, yeah, exactly. There's room back there for everybody that pisses me off this week.
And you could still fit 8 families in on the seats.
Yeah.
And the thing could
Yep.
still go the same miles per hour and didn't change. Didn't
My
get any
God,
lower.
the
suspension.
motors in those old caddies were incredible.
Oh, I know. My
You know, right up
stepfather's
the
mother
same
had
line. You know, right up the same line. I had my grandmother and grandfather's 72 Ford LTD at one time. I mean, this thing was 22 feet long. Had a
my
429
stepfather had
in
an
it.
LTD. I don't remember what year. It was a yellow color, and then we ended up painting it brown.
This thing was mint green. And boy,
Yeah.
did it fly. I remember pulling off the highway one time, and there was a mile between the highway and my road where I had to turn right. By the time I got to that road, I was doing 110 mile an hour with that 429.
Mm-hmm.
So I just wanted to see what it would do. And when I hit that accelerator, man, that ass end dropped.
Yep.
And she took off like a scared rabbit.
I remember doing that in the LTD the first time I was allowed to drive it on
Good
the
night,
back
Tony.
road as we were heading to where we were camping along the one side of the lake on the back road. And it's like, never seen a cop ever on it. Said, you want to try driving this? It's like, okay.
You ever seen a cop? They were racing down the road.
No, we just never saw them down that back road. Never. And the only time if there ever was is because, I guess, maybe some domestic altercation happened and there was enough people that called about it. Because when the first call goes through, it's like, okay, yeah. Until there's like, I don't know how many calls they finally get, and they finally, okay, I guess we better send somebody out and go take a look. Because it's probably the same people that's calling them all the time. They're going, yeah, don't worry about it. They'll figure it out. They'll be hugging the next morning.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Or they'll have their own justice. Don't worry about it.
Yep, and where I grew up at, it was usually cast iron meets his head. He apologizes multiple times, then she puts a Band-Aid on his head, and they go to bed.
Yep.
There's pretty tough women where I grew up at. You would think that I grew up in an Olympic Russian camp somewhere with the way our women were.
From what was that then when the women were really big and muscular? What, in the early 70s there, or what, from Russia?
Yeah. Yeah, and now I can't get on YouTube without seeing, you need to date a Ukrainian or Russian woman. I'm like, no, the one I got is mean enough. I don't need one that's meaner. Mine has threatened to kick my butt, but these will do it. They don't even threaten. They just come out of nowhere like a ninja and just beat the crap out of you.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, goodness gracious sakes.
Man, look at all the different things we're talking about, and it's been a year.
Oh, I know. It can't be a year next time. There's just too much to cover. I mean, I've lost track. We've talked about alcohol. We've talked about cars. We've talked about cryptids. We've talked about the paranormal. We've talked about UFOs. We've talked about Hitler. We've talked about the Bible, vampires. We touched on the Lugaroo. Didn't really get into now. Come to think of it, we got about 10 minutes left. Besides the water cryptids, and of course, Mr. Big Feets himself. What else is supposedly floating around Canada that maybe no one down this far has heard of?
Well, we have our own form over in British Columbia of a swamp thing.
Really?
Yeah. I touched on that a little while ago, called the Thaddeus Monster. Hideous lake monster.
Hmm.
The kids started a story and found out that they were just having their 15 minutes of fame. One set of kids never said anything. They kept quiet after they said their story. Nothing. And then the last person who gave a sighting for it, he actually saw something come running out of the lake, bumped into the side of his car. When he finally got to his destination, he looked at the side of the car and he saw, I think, 2 or 3 scratch marks, but there was scales sewn within those scratches in the side of the door.
Wow.
Okay.
That's
It's like,
interesting.
he said he saw a man come and bump into his door and he took off. He didn't have a good look at the man. He just said it was a man came, bumped in my door. I took off because I didn't know who it was. He goes, at first, I thought it was a bear because I guess he saw a dark shadow coming. I haven't found any more into that story for it, but, mentioned that. We have the several, because of here, a lot of the natives, there's a lot of form of wolf type cryptids, mythology or folklore, if you want, depending on how you want to decipher it. So the various wolfman or skinwalker shape shifting from human into a wolf, but there's also the other skinwalkers, that reveal themselves from in different other forms as well. It's mentioned. We even have our, like I said, Ontario had its own Bigfoot, Old Yellow Top.
Yep.
But we've also had many other creatures as well. There's a couple other ones that I'm going to mention. There's a few that are a couple more wolf-like things, because there is a belief that not only in the U.S. but also in Canada, that there was a tribe of natives that were considered what they call wolfing, where they would take off, and when nobody was looking, they would transform into a wolf and go off into the woods.
Yep.
And then they would transform back to a human whenever. But that was what they could do. And they were very sacred.
I tried to make it to the end of it. I can't. I have to run to the bathroom. But keep talking about that.
Go ahead.
I'll be right back.
Skinwalkers, like, there's all sorts of different skinwalkers, different types. A lot of them have the tendency to say that they change more from human to a wolf than anything else. There are a few where they believe that they actually would shed a form of skin layer as they transformed. There's a big skinwalker ranch and caves in, was it near Nevada? I know some different YouTubers have gone to that place to investigate it. The old abandoned buildings that are out in the desert there. I know one of the guys on YouTube, CJ Faison, and a few of his guys, they went out that way. I think even did Jasco go that way with them the one time? I can't remember. And a few others that I've seen here and there. But for Native Americans, the big time with skinwalkers, another topic which I'll get on, which is Wahila, which is a form of a wolf cryptid for them. And all of them, some of them, they are to protect their burial grounds, a few other things. Some of them are stories that have been told. Other things are spirits that were of forms of evil, because they didn't really believe fully in what is considered a god or a devil. They just believe in certain spirits from people that are, they're elders. Yes, I've heard about some skilled skinwalkers out in the lands of Australia. I forget which quadrant there. From some of the Aboriginal.
Skinwalkers in Australia. I've heard stories of, much like, here in Canada and over in Germany and Russia.
Yeah.
Every place you have wolves, you've had stories of skinwalkers, or every place that has a wild dog of any kind.
We can add into that Wendigo as well.
Mm-hmm.
Because the true original story of what we consider Wendigo didn't start here in America. It started elsewhere and was brought in. And they believe that whatever else they brought in on some of the ships, that they brought a form of a human that they considered that turned into what we considered the Wendigo. And the Wendigo is given so many different descriptions of what people have said they've seen. You know, being super skinny, tall, long fingers, claws, an animal type head, decay. You know, so it's kind of hard to
Yep,
really
the deer
know.
skull with pieces of flesh hanging off of it. And,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and it's really funny because a lot of the Native Americans here and the First Nations people up there where you're at, they adopted it as being from, you know, Canada, North America, and
Yep.
originating here, and the stories of you know how you became a Wendigo, which in essence most of them circle around the fact that it symbolizes the starving time, which is what the Cherokee call wintertime.
Yeah.
You know, you really there's nothing besides just trying to hunt in North America and Canada. I mean, a lot of the rivers and lakes are freezing up. You can't really fish, so people are going hungry. The foods that their crops or whatever have started dwindling
Yep.
from that previous season. And you know, you would go out starving, hunting, trying to find food, and you know, the Wendigo would offer you food, and if you took it, then you took his curse. He became human again. You became Wendigo, or he would just pass on and vanish into the ethereal net, and you would become the Wendigo, and you would transform, and you would always be that Wendigo, constantly hunting for your next target. Some Native Americans say, okay, the Wendigo don't ever go away. He just eats the person that he finds, and that keeps him going until the next prey can be found. So, but yeah, Christine, definitely the dingo shapeshifters, or the lupin in Australia. I've heard stories about them. So, like I said, any place that you have a wild dog or a wolf or anything like that, you have got a shapeshifter, werewolf, whatever you want to call it, story or piece of folklore or legend or something, especially with the indigenous, the natives that were there before Europeans.
Yeah, because a lot of that for Canada Northwest Territories, touching towards Alaska, then running straight down into I forget all three states, but into Montana and all that for the old Ioways.
Yeah,
with Iowa, because they touched with that, and as I'll get into it, when I finally, maybe I'll probably have it up this weekend. Do my part for Wahila or Wahili, depending on how you want to pronounce it. But that ran all through in the same parts, all the way up from Alaska, Northwest Territories, because that's where a lot of it kind of originated and brought down into Montana. There's stories there, and in Iowa, and I don't know if it's Minnesota or I'm trying to remember offhand. I had it written down. I don't have it anywhere near me. But from Iowa, the Iowa tribe, that they talk a lot about it. That they've always Wendigo and Wahila, right? They had a lot into that. They had a lot of beliefs, and basically, I'll give you. If you don't know what a Wahila is a wolf that is bigger than a timber wolf. That its basic body shape, whereas a timber wolf is about 3 to 4 feet to its shoulders, the Wahila is taller. Okay, by
Wow.
another foot or two. It is very wide and broad. The head itself is wider than a normal wolf. And the way the body's shaped when it's standing on all fours is more similar to, I want to say how some of the poles are, where the hind legs are shorter and the front legs are longer.
Mm-hmm.
But their legs are long like a Great Dane. Their paws are huge like a bear.
Oh,
So
wow.
basically, what they think of Wahila is a cross between a wolf and a bear. Okay, so I'm not going to say anything more because I'll give you
Yeah, I'll wait
what
for
I
the
found,
video.
my research, and and I give my research differently than some other people. Like I do things, I find what I find, and I look at these different stories and say, okay, I'm hearing this, reading this, I'm hearing that, I'm researching, finding out this information. And it's like, okay, what stories did they say? Oh, well, they made it up, for their 15 minutes of fame, or was there several occurrences because there was something that happened? Okay. So that was like with Old Yellow Top, the Bigfoot with the yellow hair, um, just on its head, not the rest of the body. The rest of the body was a dark brown. But where they were mining, it would sit on the forest edge and watch them. Never was aggressive, never engaged in anything, would just watch them. When people would actually throw rocks or shoot at it, it would come forward, try to take a better look at who was doing it, and then walk off into the forest. It did not turn around and be aggressive. That was the one thing about
Yeah.
Old Yellow Top that was different than any other information that was given about Bigfoot. And I think I told you once before when we were talking about that. There's a guy on YouTube called Monster Bait, I think TV is it, but Monster Bait mostly. And where he lives, he has 2 or 3 sightings where they actually go out into the woods. He goes out by himself and he goes Bigfoot hunting. He's followed a lot of certain people, and he's gotten sounds recorded at night and even during the day. He has one recording he's put up where he had game trail cameras, and there's eyes that peek around a tree, and he goes, "Well, for the height, he goes, that's not a deer. It's too tall."
Yeah.
He goes, "It's not quite a bear because the way the bear eyes reflect from the game camera, the infrared or whatever it is that a lot of the game cameras use. I'm not familiar fully with them, but there is a glowing eyes, and one looks like kind of turns its head to the side and looks like one eye is blinking, and then kind of disappears and pops back again. It's like he goes, "Well, what is it?" And he went during the day and showed people where the eyes were onto a tree for the height, and this is around between 6 and 8 feet mark. Okay.
Yep.
He goes, it's in this range. He goes, because the distance and because it was at night, he goes, but looking at these trees, he goes, it's in this mark. He goes, maybe 7 to 8 feet. He goes, so what was it? And people thought, oh, was it an owl or something on the tree? He goes, no, owl's eyes are different. And he's gone and showed, he goes, this is what the owl's eyes look like at night. This is what this deer's eyes look like at night. This is what this animal's eyes look like at night. So he goes, so then what is it? What was there the game camera caught that was peeking around behind the tree? And still today,
Wow.
he can't figure out what it could be. Nobody else has told him what it could be. I mean, I guess because where he lives in the States, I guess too much snow and everything, he hasn't done much on his channel lately. So hopefully he'll be
Yeah.
back into it again, because they got a lake, a cornfield where they say that, Bigfoot is ventured. They found, different things. He's taken cob on the corn right off the stalk of the corn, and he's thrown it into the center of the cornfield, and he's heard noises. He goes, you tell me, he goes, what animal makes that noise?
Yeah.
He's even had
Yeah.
once where something was thrown back at him. He goes, what the hell? Or he's heard something go out of the cornfield into the woods that was nearby. He goes, so what is it? And then there's a river or whatever, and he thinks, oh, that they live on the other side of the river. They
Yeah,
just
the
had a
liver.
liver, and they come across it, to feed in the cornfields or to go hunting for whatever else it is that they eat.
Now, I know we ran over here
Mhm.
just a few minutes, but I'm going to ask you about one other cryptid that we have down here that I would think you would have up there because the population is so much bigger.
Okay.
Well, the land size and the deer population. We have a thing down here called a knot deer.
Okay.
Now, this thing is almost like um, it's definitely a cryptid. It's almost like a zombie deer or a mutation of some kind. Have you ever heard of them up there?
I can't say that I have offhand. No, of course I'm on the wrong. I was gonna just looking here. Whoops, close the wrong one. Just gonna pop open my web browser because I have a thing on a whole bunch of different types of cryptids, mythological creatures that are from around the world. A website, and if I remember on here, there's like well over 80 different creatures. Hang on here. Let me just pop this up real quick and see if it's listed here.
All right, pop up. I just found out. Hi,
Yep.
Mark. Since you're standing next to my wife at work right now watching the live stream, glad you could pop in and say hi, ass. My buddy Sharpshooter Mike works security, or Sharpshooter Mark works security at the same casino my wife works at. So he's standing right. She's messaging me right now, and she said, "Get off the damn stream. Mark's standing right next to me watching you."
Okay, I don't know whether it sounds something that's similar to what is called a peryton, like a flying stag.
Yeah.
Now I won't get fully into this, but it's a bull stag, all right, for the picture that is showing.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see what else there is in here quickly, because there are some pictures for some of the these cryptid, mythological type creatures, and they're really, some of them are really weird looking.
Yeah. Well, Mark actually found a couple of cemeteries up by Muskegon, Michigan. We didn't get a chance to go to last year because it's going to be an overnight thing. But one of the cemeteries has got Indian burial mounds in it. It's supposedly guarded by a shapeshifter, and the other one has got a Revolutionary War soldier that guards the place. So I'm really hoping this year we find a way to get up there and check out these two legends, these two cemeteries. Because I got a feeling that it will be very interesting before it's all said and done.
Yeah, that kind of sounds similar to a cemetery down in Florida where they have a soldier that actually guards the whole cemetery. Like at certain times, you can hear them marching around in the cemetery.
Oh, wow.
I don't know if there's anything more to it than that, but that's some of the things I remember witnessing. That one person went in, it's like, yeah, he goes, it sounds like there's somebody actually marching around in the cemetery. He goes, and they knew about there was a spirit of a soldier that was there that would guard the cemetery. They go, okay, does he just guard an area or the whole cemetery? And later was said, no, would march around the cemetery like as if he's on duty looking for somebody, or if somebody comes in there, I guess, want to play around or cause any problem, that he somehow scares the hell out of them.
Yeah. Well, you know how in a cemetery, all the headstones face the same direction.
Yeah.
We have one not very far from here. Mark and I done it about a year and a half ago, I think. It's called
Hmm.
Daily Cemetery,
Okay.
and much like all other cemeteries, all the headstones, the back of the headstone faces the east, the
Hmm.
writing faces the west,
Okay.
except for one grave,
Really?
and it's a
Okay.
Revolutionary War soldier whose back of his headstone faces the south and the writing faces the north,
Wow. Hmm.
looking out over the rest of the cemetery.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm a very big believer that it was done that way for a reason. So,
Because I know the Lithuanian cemetery that I went to, a lot of the headstones that are in there, they're facing north and south, and then only one section faces east and west. That they're,
really,
butt up against each other, so the backs of the tombstones are facing each other, the headstones and markers, and that the fronts where they are, and where they're the rows that they're buried, you've only got about maybe I think it was a foot and a half at the end of where a casket would be for their feet for you to actually walk, so you're not actually walking over a grave. Because in that video when I did that was the first one I put up, the Lithuanian cemetery. That I actually walked across a corner of one and I said, "Sorry, excuse me, I didn't mean to do that. I really, really apologize. I don't mean to be walking over you like that." Because having that etiquette, for the cemetery like that, and just
hmm
and as I said, I go looking at these, from left to right. I said, trying to walk down. I go, I got this little tiny walkway to walk through, and that's it. But the way they had it is because there's a lot of fancy headstones there, a lot of artwork that they did on the granite, which is really good.
All right,
But there was
Templar,
another
you
reason
have
to go
yourself
there.
a
So
good evening, bud. I'm going to
uh,
be ending this here in just a minute anyway. I got work to do. We have that deal for Grandma tomorrow, and God knows who all's going to come back here to the house when it's
yeah.
done. So I need to get the house cleaned up so the wife gets home at midnight tonight, and all she's got to do is go to bed, get up in the morning, and cook.
Hmm.
So, but man, we got to do this again, bud. But it can't be a year to the date when we do it.
Well, because we got too much to talk about.
Yeah, yeah, we
Look
flip
at
flopped all over the place tonight.
we let a year go by, and we got so much different things we could talk about that we could write our own book series
Yeah, really,
because we have so many different things
really.
that we could talk about. So maybe next time we'll have something maybe a little bit more topic related that we could do for people. Just like coming up. I still got to talk to Derek, Dark Shadow
Yeah.
Histories, Mysteries, Investigations, whatever he wants to add to the end of Dark Shadow. Because I said to him, it's like we were thinking of doing something with a little bit more with mythological creatures and that. But I've entitled it to be mythological creatures of the world, not just a series centered just to one country or anything, to add more to it. And we still got to kind of brainstorm, collaborate with that, and how to bring it out, how to do it. So that's somewhere that's in the works down. I got to finish my 8 mythological creatures of Canada, which are the main ones, the ones that are talked about the most, that are more famous. Even though you didn't
Yeah.
know about Mussy, which is our form of Loch Ness monster that we have, the main one. A lot of people talk about the other one, right? And he
Yeah.
goes, I'm going to pull blah, 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 whatever. Is that how you say it? It's like, no. There's lots of O's in between the letters.
Ogopogo.
Yeah. But,
And then, of course, clear over in the east, you guys got Lake Champlain and Champ. So, Canada's just riddled with all kinds of oogie boogies and
yeah.
freaky sea monsters. And
There's a lot of that. So, you know, I
God,
still have,
God knows what's hiding in the oxbow. So, but
maybe,
I'm
maybe
going to
that's
kill
what
this
the
for
smell
tonight.
of getting from, you know, Windsor, Detroit there.
Yeah, that might be it. Who the hell knows?
And they got some
Who the
type
hell
of
knows?
weird swampy gas over there. But anyways,
Well, that's just Detroit. The whole place smells funny. Smells like swamp gas.
it even travels north of that.
I know. I've been across the bridge. Believe me, I know.
Mm-hmm.
But again, thank you, Bud, for coming on, spending time with
No
us and
problem.
stuff. And we'll do it again sometime really soon.
Yep. Hope everybody enjoyed.
All right.
Been here. Thank you for everybody who has joined us and those about to watch this on rewatch.
Yep, most definitely. As always, guys, you know, take care of yourselves, take care of each other. God bless you. God love you. We do. We'll catch you down the road.